Imagine this scene. Scar, the cunning lion who cold-bloodedly changed the fate of the kingdom, stands alone after toppling Mufasa and seizing the throne. Everything seemed to go exactly as he planned. But did Scar really live his reign without an heir of his own, aside from Kovu, who we only met later in the second film? What if the truth was far deeper and far darker than the movie ever revealed? What if Scar hid a secret buried in the shadows? A secret in the form of another son, one never mentioned, who could turn the entire history of the Pride Lands upside down. Today, we won't just follow the story as the movie told it. We're going deeper, digging into the dialogues, the gestures, and the subtle shots, to uncover hidden threads that hint at the possibility of a forgotten son of Scar. A son who wasn't Kovu, but someone else who could have changed everything. Are you ready to uncover the untold truth? Then buckle up, because what we're about to reveal may completely change how you see the Lion King. But before we get to the shocking revelation, we need to ask the first question. Why even consider that Scar had another son? At first, the idea seems strange, doesn't it? The movie never mentioned it, and the sequel only connected Kovu to Zira and her plan to raise him as Scar's heir. But here's where the mystery deepens. Why would Scar need an outside heir through Zira when he was already king, with the power to secure his own bloodline? Could a mastermind like Scar really ignore something as crucial as continuing his lineage? Doesn't that contradiction feel suspicious? The theory is simple. Yes, Scar did have another son, but it wasn't Kovu. This heir existed even before Zira entered the picture, and perhaps that truth explains many of Scar's darker decisions later on. A true son of his blood erased from the story for reasons unknown. Fear, betrayal, or maybe even a grand conspiracy. So where do we look for clues of this hidden heir? The first detail is the hyenas, Scar's loyal followers in the first film. They never once mentioned Scar's succession, but think back. Remember how they mocked Simba and chased him? Why didn't they do the same with any other cub once Scar took power? Could it be that there was another cub in the story, one we simply never saw on screen? Could the hyenas have known a dangerous secret they chose never to speak aloud? Then there's Scar's relationship with the lionesses. Sarabi, Simba's mother, showed no affection toward Scar, only anger and defiance. But was Sarabi really the only lioness in the pride? Of course not. Several lionesses appear in the background, most without names or roles. Here's the question. Isn't it possible that one of these lionesses was secretly tied to Scar, and maybe even bore his cub? The theory gains even more strength when you look at how Scar treated Simba. Notice this. Scar didn't just want to kill his nephew. He wanted to erase Simba's existence completely, as though he feared Simba would stand in the way of another heir, perhaps his own son. So maybe Scar's ultimate goal wasn't just to steal the throne, but to clear the path for his hidden child to inherit it. But then, why didn't we ever hear about this cub? If he existed, why was he erased from the films entirely? Here lies the twist. Maybe the cub disappeared under mysterious circumstances. Scar himself could have hidden him away to protect him from the hyenas as their loyalty wavered. Or maybe Zira played a role in this plot, removing Scar's true son so she could push Kovu as the sole heir under her control. Think about it. Could Zira have entered Scar's life only later, after his first son had already vanished? Maybe she saw the opportunity to fill that void and presented Kovu as the perfect heir. Yet behind this, the bigger question remains. Who was this lost son? Where did he go? And did he leave behind traces in the Pride Lands that we've overlooked all along? To understand the possibility of Scar having another son, we need to rewatch the movie carefully and pay attention to the little details that most people overlook. Sometimes the truth doesn't reveal itself directly, but instead leaves behind subtle traces, scattered signs along the way. So let's follow these signs, one by one. The first clue appears in the original film when Scar confronts Simba after the elephant graveyard incident. Listen closely to his tone as he scolds the young cub. It wasn't just anger, it felt more like bitterness, envy, almost personal hatred. Why would Scar carry such strong emotions toward his nephew? Yes, Simba was a threat to the throne, but Scar's reaction went deeper, as if it were a rivalry between heirs, not just an uncle and nephew. This raises the question, did Scar see Simba as direct competition for a son of his own, a son who never appeared on screen? Was Scar's venomous resentment really about protecting his own heir's future? The second clue comes in Scar's tense exchange with Sarabi after he takes the throne. When she challenges him about destroying the Pride Lands, he snaps back with the line, "I am the king now." But the way he clings to power feels like more than self-preservation. It's as if he's fighting not just for himself, but for an inheritance to be carried on after him. Why else hold so tightly to a crumbling kingdom? If he knew rebellion or betrayal was inevitable, maybe his true motive was to clear a path for his hidden son to rule after him. Could that line have been a veiled reference to a successor waiting in the shadows? The third clue ties back to the hyenas. Shenzi, Banzai, and Ed were always close to Scar. But in the final battle, when they turn against him, their words are striking. "We were starving, and it's your fault." Notice what's missing. No mention of a future leader, no hint of loyalty to anyone after Scar. Hyenas are practical. They follow whoever can feed and protect them. If Kovu had truly existed as Scar's son at that time, wouldn't they have rallied around him after Scar's fall? The complete absence of such a move suggests something darker. What if there was a cub, but the hyenas betrayed Scar early on by eliminating him, removing any rival for power and food? If that's true, this secret betrayal might explain Scar's tragic end when he faced their wrath. The fourth clue emerges in The Lion King 2, Simba's Pride. Notice how Zira presents Kovu as Scar's chosen one, but the film never shows them together, not once. There's no direct scene, no conversation, no gesture connecting Scar and Kovu. Everything we know comes only from Zira's words. Isn't that odd? If Kovu were truly Scar's blood son, why didn't the film confirm it outright? Why is there no will, no symbol, no acknowledgement from Scar himself? This leaves open the intriguing possibility that Kovu was never Scar's biological son at all, but a stand-in. Perhaps Zira invented this claim to fill the gap left by another son, one who existed but vanished before Kovu came into the picture. If Zira knew of this real heir, why erase him? Was he too much of a threat to her ambitions? The fifth clue is in Kovu's design itself. Yes, he resembles Scar with his darker fur and sharp eyes. But look closer. His features don't fully match what we'd expect from Scar's offspring. These subtle differences may not be random animation choices, but deliberate signals. A quiet hint from the creators that Kovu wasn't Scar's true son. And if he wasn't, then who was? Where did the real heir go? The sixth and most mysterious clue lies in the visual language of Scar's character, the eyes in the dark scenes. Whenever Scar plots, the film lingers on his glowing eyes in the shadows. On one hand, it's cinematic flair. But symbolically, it suggests secrets hidden in darkness, truths waiting to surface. Could those glowing eyes have been more than just menace? Could they symbolize the existence of something unseen? A bloodline Scar carried but never revealed? After gathering these clues, the bigger mystery remains. If Scar did have another son, who was his mother? Some speculate she could have been one of the unnamed lionesses seen briefly in the background. Figures without stories, perhaps exiled or silenced before their truth could emerge. This could explain why the cub never appeared. He might have been banished at birth, hidden away to avoid scandal or to maintain balance within the pride. But what if it wasn't the mother who sent him away? What if Scar himself removed his own child? At first, it seems illogical. Scar was obsessed with power. Why hide his heir? But think about it. Scar was cunning, and he knew danger surrounded him. If he feared the hyenas might target his son, or that keeping him nearby would make him vulnerable, Scar might have decided to hide him until the time was right. Which leads to a darker question. Did this son grow up far from the Pride Lands? And if so, what became of him when Simba returned to reclaim the throne? These clues don't give us certainty, but they do open a door, a shadowed possibility that the story we know is incomplete. That there was a missing chapter, erased from history. A chapter where a cub of Scar's own bloodline existed, only to vanish into mystery. And now, having followed the trail of evidence, we arrive at the real turning point. What if? How would the entire story change if Scar's hidden son had stepped into the light? Now, imagine this scene again. Scar sits on the throne after Mufasa's death and Simba's exile. The Pride Lands groan with hunger, hyenas surround him at every turn, and the lionesses obey him with silent rage. And in that moment, from the shadows of the rocks, a small cub emerges. Not Kovu, but another son. A son with Scar's sharp, burning eyes, and the same dark coat that sets him apart from the other cubs. At first, no one dares speak his name. He is a secret shared only between Scar and a few loyal lionesses. But as time passes, the cub grows, and with him grows a dangerous resemblance to his father. Like Scar, he carries cunning and wit, but deep inside there still lingers the innocence of youth. And here lies the first tension. Will he embrace his father's hunger for power, or will he carve his own path? If this son had truly existed, the story would have changed forever. Simba's return would no longer be a simple clash between nephew and uncle. It would have been a battle against another heir, Scar's blood standing between Simba and the throne. Imagine the confrontation. Simba, the rightful king, facing Scar's son, who claims the crown as his birthright. It would no longer be a fight between good and evil, but between royal bloodlines, between legacy and betrayal. But here comes the first twist. This cub is not a blind follower of Scar. He sees the kingdom withering before his eyes. He hears the cries of the starving lionesses, the whimpers of the cubs. And inside him grows a question he dares not voice. Is my father truly right? Is this the kingdom I want to inherit? The true conflict takes shape. Scar pushes him to master deception, to embrace cruelty, to become a shadow of himself. But the young cub finds himself drawn to the other lion cubs who play, laugh, and cling to the last sparks of innocence. Between these two worlds, he is torn. Which side will he choose? And then, the twist sharpens with Simba's return. The iconic scene. Simba faces Scar before Pride Rock, lionesses on one side, hyenas on the other. But in this new version, Scar's son steps forward at his father's side, declaring himself the rightful heir. Shock ripples through the pride. Scar no longer stands alone. His bloodline itself rises against Simba. At first, Scar seems stronger than ever. With his son at his side, his claim feels unshakable. But as the truth comes out, when Simba reveals how Scar killed Mufasa, the cub's world shatters. For the first time, he learns the dark truth his father had hidden. Scar is not just a schemer, but a murderer. Doubt claws at him. Could his father truly have killed his own brother? Is this a king worth following? As the final battle erupts, hyenas charging, lionesses fighting, the cub stands at a crossroads. Side with his father, or stand for what's right. And then comes the greatest twist of all. Instead of siding with Scar or Simba, he breaks free of both, roaring, "This kingdom belongs to neither of you. You've both destroyed it with your war." The battlefield freezes in shock. Scar stares in fury at his son's betrayal. Simba falters, stunned by the cub's defiance. But Scar, blinded by rage and fear, cannot bear this treachery. With a snarl, he lunges at his own heir. Father and son clash violently atop Pride Rock, a struggle of blood and legacy. Scar's claws against his cub's defiance. In the chaos, Scar meets his end. Not just at the hyena's teeth, but after being cast down by the very heir he tried to mold. The cub, bloodied and torn, vanishes into the shadows amid the battle's fury. His fate remains unknown. Did he survive? Did he wander beyond the Pride Lands? Did he die that night, or is he still out there waiting?